transparent sky stood outside, and what remained of the black clouds had vanished. The rain had finally stopped, but there was still rain pouring down somewhere in the floor of hostel room number 509. Inside the room lay a young boy, shaking, with eyes closed, reminiscing the dreadful events that had happened a few days back. There were no bruises on his body, but his mind, dotted with seemingly indelible ink of low self-esteem and pessimistic highlights. Chaos of seniority groomed in the bypassers outside his room, just 1 to 2 years older than him. They peeked inside the room with a smirk on their face, as if they won a war that would be rightly named My Fragile Ego and Me. Namaste and hello everyone, welcome to Anamak Podcast. I am Deepika Lanisane.
And I am Reet Shrestha. We are two nerds who like learning about and talking about a wide variety of subjects.
Hopefully we are not the boring kind.
That is exactly what boring nerds would say, but anyways.
Okay, let's forget about that. We express our opinions here in our podcast along with the facts so that we can remain rational yet in touch with our emotions.
Very true, Deepu. So, what are we talking about today?
We are going to be talking about the least favorite topic of yours. Can you guess?
I don't have to guess though, Deepu, because we know what we're talking about.
yes, but just so that...
Yeah, just to add to the theatrics of it.
Exactly.
Right. Ragging, guys. We're talking about ragging today.
Okay. So moving on. We'll be focusing mainly on medical school, ragging, because being med students, we have seen our peers and juniors experiencing ragging all around us.
It's a topic that we feel very strongly against.
Yes.
And I am afraid that today's podcast is going to be more of a rant. And I hope you guys bear with us. So, what is ragging, Deepu?
Ragging is a subset of bullying. And bullying, as we all know, is the systematic abuse of power. It's the aggressive behavior or intentional harm doing that is carried out repeatedly, and it involves an imbalance of power. And ragging, it refers to any activity that is expected of someone in joining or participating in a group that humiliates, degrades, abuses, or endangers that individual, regardless of their willingness to participate. So, it's called ragging in Indian subcontinent. I think it's called something in North America. What was it called?
It's called hazing.
Like the hazelnut. And it's called baptême in French. This implies that ragging, it oversteps the boundaries as well as crosses the borders, and it's rampant all over the world. So, have you ever experienced ragging?
Fortunately, no, I don't have a first-hand experience of ragging, but I've seen what it does to people, and I hate it with all my heart.
Same here, I haven't experienced it firsthand, but as I already shared, we have many experiences of our friends. And do you know what one of our colleagues said to me the other day regarding ragging? So he shared to me the experience. Not experience, but something that he did to the juniors.
And he shared it with pride, I believe?
Of course, with a smirk on his face. So what they did, he along with other friends, so they made the juniors count the sugar cubes that was scattered by them all over the floor of the hostel room. And
that is insane.
Yes, if I would be describing your facial expression right now, it would be ragging is a nonsense, idiotic act.
Yes.
Which it rightly is. And in med school mainly, we come with the hope of learning new things, learning about human body, getting help from seniors so that we can make med school fun as well as a good learning experience as time goes by. But ragging, it becomes the barrier to all these things. And with all those heavy books that we carry in our mind as well as on our backs, ragging, it further increases the load. It's almost like someone is trying to climb the Everest with a bag full of heaviest stones. And, this makes me want to question the very motive of ragging. Is it for fun? Is it because someone wants to protect their fragile ego? Or is it just done because they experienced ragging by themselves? It just leaves me baffled.
First of all, I love that analogy. And before we talk about where ragging began and give our villain an origin story, if you will, I would like to put two things out there. Number one, it is often easy to consider dominance a synonym of power. There is an idea that I find extremely, extremely relevant. Dominance, it is something that can be used to gain power over a person or a situation. And not saying that these two terms, they're not connected, but there's a difference between dominance and power. Number two, popularity and communal submission are not grounds for calling any action acceptable or normal. So Deepu, as humans have evolved over the millennia, they have found new customs and there are different subcultures that we observe in every community. There's something that we see in different cultures, situations, and contexts. When a person enters into a new environment or into a new stage in their lives, there are a few initiation rituals that they are often expected to follow. I was reading through a few, and there were some that made my face go, oh, of course, they cannot see my face right now, but you can.
And I want to hear the story.
All right.
Please go on, man.
So, like in a certain tribe in Ethiopia, for you to enter manhood, you should jump over 4 bulls as your
Did you
sisters.
say Ethiopia?
Yes, Ethiopia. It's among the Hamar tribe or something. I might have gotten the name wrong. So for you to enter manhood, you should jump over 4 bulls as your sisters and female friends are whipped. Then you become a man. So,
Listeners, are you picturing what Preeti is saying? Because
yes,
I am and I'm going crazy. Okay.
Yes, and we intend no disrespect, but we cannot deny the fact that this is weird as hell, right?
Yes, it is.
And there are many others, rites of passage, and not every one of them is as weird as this one. I believe these rites of passage were probably created for several reasons. One of them was probably the fact that humans in prehistoric times did not know better. Bullying has also been considered a rite of passage, and it still is. And like you said, ragging is a subset of bullying. I like to call it glorified bullying.
It is. Yes.
Ragging was first mentioned in the documents that report the Olympics of the 8th century BC.
I love Olympics.
Yeah, some sources, Deepu, they claim that it became a part of modern education system when soldiers returning from wars, they brought a system of military-style hazing in the campuses where they were re-enrolled. So its origins might be traced to different locations and different time periods, but the fact that it exists in today's world in different forms is the main issue, and that is why we're talking about this right now. Now, the medical school perspective. Ragging is called intro year where we live, maybe because it is almost a doorway to preliminary interaction among seniors and juniors in medical school. For you to get initiated, you should jump over the physical, mental, and emotional hurdles that stand like bulls in front of you. Remember the story?
That's very, very great analogy right there. Okay.
And thank you. And your self-respect is whipped. And voila, you enter the circle. You are now officially in touch with your seniors. Ragging is deemed to be how your seniors get to know you, how you recognize who your seniors are, who the boss is, right? And it forms the foundation of a system of hierarchy that is evident throughout the time that we're in medical school. I've met people who consider ragging an essential initiation ritual, but isn't there one already present? It's called the white coat ceremony, and it's a unifying endorphin-releasing event for future doctors. In our institution, if I remember correctly, they made us take the Hippocratic Oath as well.
Those days.
Right, those days when...
I want to go back to those days.
Yes, those days when tension was scarce and... Right? We did not have
first year of medical school back again.
Right. First year students who are struggling with anatomy are cursing us right now. How dare you?
Just a reminder to those first year students. It gets better.
It gets better and it also gets harder, but
Yes.
you will get used to it getting harder, so it will get better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, in our institution, as I said, they made us take the Hippocratic Oath, and it was done while we were given our white coats. And there's a part of this oath that we said out loud, and I quote, "I will remember that there is art to medicine as well as science, and that warmth, sympathy, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug." And that is exactly what ragging is opposed to, is it not, Deepu?
It is.
Some might call it a form of entertainment. Some might call it an essential part of getting to know your senior colleagues. Some might call it a ritual that needs to be passed on from one batch of doctors to the next, because who doesn't like a bit of fun, right? So,
Two nerds.
right? So there isn't much mentioned in pre-existing literature about how and where ragging began in medical schools in particular, or I might not have looked hard enough. I would really appreciate if someone mentions it in the comments down below. And another thing is, I might be looking at it from a myopic lens, but when it comes to medical school, I think decades ago, ragging began and perpetuated as a way of releasing pressure and tension. It was probably a
That could be
place,
one
right?
theory.
Right. So, long ago, medical school was a place and time where people had too much to deal with. They lived in a stressful and challenging environment that paid more attention to productivity than mental health, and not much has changed in that avenue, sadly. Right?
It hasn't changed.
Yes, and plus there wasn't much advocacy going on.
That has actually a little
Yes,
bit
yes,
changed.
yes.
There's a bit of advocacy nowadays.
Yes, and that is incredible. The world is gradually becoming a better place.
But the change is in very slow pace, I
Yes,
think.
yes, that can definitely be worked on. So the thing is, it's yet to become better. The world is yet to become better, and medical school is still a place where we see unhealthy patterns and power dynamics play out. But hear me out, Deepu, in the past, it was undoubtedly worse.
I agree. I agree.
Now, I am not justifying shitty behavior, because bullying can never be justified, and ragging, as we said before, is glorified, normalized bullying. But when I try to understand where the roots of ragging lie, all I can think of is this. When young people are in a state of constant burnout, when they are treated with disrespect by their seniors and provided with no proper outlet, they do asinine things that are best left undone. And when this unhealthy, toxic pattern continues, every generation ends up carrying that burden and placing it on the shoulders of their successors. Again, this is not a justification, it's just a theory. And it does not take that many people to consider this theory reason enough to consider ragging as normal and keep this trend alive. My seniors did it to me, I'll do it to my juniors, they'll do it to their juniors, and on it goes. So, plus, there is often a herd mentality that accompanies every vice, as we've seen, right?
does.
And whatever the reason might be, in a cohort of individuals who try to keep their egos inflated by acting like underworld dons among newcomers, and these are egos that have already been made fragile by a toxic system, mind you. In this cohort, it's very easy for such toxic patterns to stay. The next thing is a system of hierarchy that is ingrained into our minds the moment we enter medical school. People who have been in med school for a certain period of time obviously know more than people who have just entered the system. Their knowledge and the guidance that they offer are obviously important. I'm not trying to deny that. But, big but, just because they were here earlier and they have swam in the oceans that freshers are just learning to dive into, does not mean that they forget it's a professional environment. One might debate, we all live in dorms, we share bathrooms, and we are a step higher on the ladder. We're like a family living...
We hear you singing inside your room.
We're like a family living and working under the same roof. We're working to achieve a common goal. We're like siblings. Shush! Shh! This is a professional environment. And since this is a professional environment, there are certain lines you should not cross. You should not forget that your juniors, they are human beings worthy of respect regardless of their place in some arbitrary pyramid your mind has created. They are not robots who should be available at your every beck and call, and they certainly are not your slaves. Well, we haven't treated them like slaves. There's a period of ragging, and then there's shared camaraderie. No, you don't get to decide that as a perpetrator of abuse. And we are using the word abuse with conviction because ragging involves cursing. It involves physical violence at times. And it involves making someone do something against their free will. Just because they tolerate it out of fear and give you some version of respect that you demand, that does not mean it's acceptable or that they even respect you, in fact. I cannot say this enough. There is a difference between treating someone as a subordinate and treating someone as an inferior. I think we should understand that there is a difference, right?
It's high time that we understand that.
Right. And again, there might be a debate as to what actually encompasses ragging. What is ragging? It might be something relatively benign as compared to the horrors that we've heard about. We cannot mention everything right here, right now, right?
It's whatever it is, it's not good.
If you're a medical student, you've heard the horrors. You know what ragging looks like in medical colleges.
Do you remember that you even heard
right.
that noise?
I am never going to forget that.
Yeah, and few months. I think it's just a few months.
Yes, it's just been a few months. There was...
I remember you telling me, and I thought, well, that must not be a med student, or maybe it's from outside the hostel. And do you also remember that days after we got to know that
there
was a ragging incident?
And everyone was out on their balconies. I remember that day vividly. I wouldn't mention if it was a guy or a girl, but the person, they were crying out loud. They were having...
There was a physical... abuse and verbal abuse, both of it involved.
Right, they were having a full-blown panic attack.
Exactly.
A full-blown panic attack, and that was a horrible sound to hear. And I can't imagine how horrible it was for the person who experienced it. So we were talking about how ragging, it might not include physical violence, or it might just include some minor name-calling, just a slightly elevated and rude tone of voice, just a reminder as to who actually deserves more respect over there. And if it is harmless and seemingly benign, why bother talking about it, right? It's not as bad here as it is elsewhere, some might say. And
a crime is a crime, isn't it?
Right, it is. And even if it's not ragging per se, per se, if there is an expression of subtle dominance, if there are divisive activities that are making juniors feel like subhumans, it is an action that is not exactly professional, is it?
It's not.
And I think that even if things are not considered ragging per se, right, because there's always a comparison going on between medical colleges where it's harder, where it's scarier. I think it's important that we dive into the intention behind said actions. Does it come from a need to feel superior? Does it come from a need to establish control? Does it stem from some inherent narcissism and sadism that you've kept hidden and need to work on?
Imagine that it could be all those things combined.
Maybe. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. And is it a manifestation of a bruised ego that seeks healing from making someone feel like they lie at the bottom of a randomly created chain of command?
Beautifully said.
I think it's important that we ask these questions to ourselves. You are allowed to ask me these questions if I act like a jerk.
You won't, but yes.
If that happens, and if I act like a jerk, and if I don't walk my talk, you are allowed to ask me these questions.
You're allowed to ask me too.
Right, because that is, you wouldn't, I know that, but
You wouldn't.
But the thing is, holding each other accountable, holding our colleagues accountable, and holding ourselves accountable is what will stop this issue. Personally, the seniors that I've grown to respect, the seniors that I've considered to be truly worthy of my admiration are the ones who have given me the respect and offered me the dignity that one professional should offer another. That one human being should give another, in fact. Don't get me wrong. I understand that a basic level of courtesy is to be expected. In a society like ours, in which we are taught to treat our seniors with civility, say Namaste Dada, Namaste Didi, or if you don't wish to, a simple hello, there is an expectation that one has. Our culture, it has a beauty of its own. We cannot deny that, right? We respect our seniors, but we also love our juniors, right? This is a very cliche thing in our culture. Respect your seniors, love your juniors, and I fully agree with that. But I think you should respect your juniors as well.
Exactly.
Right? And one might use our culture as a defense. But demanding submission and fear cannot be equated to accepting respect with grace and offering it in return. It should be mutual, I think. Everything should be. And if you expect some kind of special right to violate boundaries, like you shared in your story, which was beautifully written, and you said it with so much emotion attached to it that I believe anyone who heard it is moved. They're moved.
Comments.
So, what I was saying is, if you expect some kind of special right to overstep boundaries and to seek some kind of submission on the grounds of you being a senior, what are you doing? Are you seeking social dominance? Are you seeking some kind of power that absolves you of the responsibility of being kind and professional? What are you doing? Now, we decided to have a segment yesterday in which Deepu and we talk about the justification people give in favor of ragging and what we have to say against those statements. So, I'll give you one, Deepu.
Okay.
Number one.
I'm ready.
Ragging brings friends together. It gives a batch something to stand against and it strengthens bonds. Dude, this is not a survival reality show. This is not a battleground.
You are not Bear Grylls, bro.
Yes.
Or sis, or anyone.
We're trying to stay inclusive here. As medical school is hard as it is, there are other things that will bring people closer together. Shared interests, for instance. The sleepless nights you will spend together reading something that sounds like Mandarin, Spanish, and an extinct language mixed together. Something that you just cannot understand.
Okay, ma'am.
Oh my god, I'm getting flashbacks over here.
Okay.
So the thing is, you don't have to make yourself a senior platonic fairy godmother who forges friendships and alliances together. That's not your job, alright?
Imagine a fairy godmother who does that.
Alright. That would be fun.
I would want that so.
Netflix, do you hear us? Among the 4 or 5 people who are listening to us right now, who include our roommates, is anyone a Netflix producer?
Reed wants to direct it.
I have tons of experience. So, your turn, people.
Okay. So, do you want to hear another reason why ragging is there?
Yes, like the kind of justification people give.
Yes, yes.
I would love to.
So, ragging, it fosters obedience and it prepares students for their professional lives in the years to follow. Well, no offense to dogs, but is that a trait you demand from your colleague? I mean, there is a time and place where you should be obedient, but for God's sake, you are not a pirate. You are not, Captain
Jack Sparrow?
Yes.
Captain Jack Sparrow was cute.
No, he was.
Yeah.
But it's still, just like people who do ragging steal happiness and dopamine and rainbows and butterflies.
Right.
Okay, I want to hear.
That makes sense.
I want to hear another
The
one.
next thing, right? So the next justification or the next reason that we hear or that we've read about, is that ragging allows seniors and juniors to get to know each other. Well, if your idea of getting to know each other is asking people to look at their buttons as they walk and making them kiss a light bulb or count sugar cubes that you threw on the floor,
Or do
like what the
nagging
hell?
dance.
Yeah, nagging dance. Like, I would rather not know you, right?
Wow.
If that is the way you get to know a person, if that is the protocol, I am fine not knowing you.
And on friend and blog. This was Facebook, but you know.
Yeah. Can we do that to people in real life? It would be fun, right?
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
I know how crazy activisty we sound right now, but I think this is something that we need to talk about.
Yes.
And we are not targeting individuals here. We are not targeting communities. What we're targeting and what we're mocking is the ideology that is alive and breathing right here, right now in the 21st century. So, Deepu, any other justification that you've heard being given?
One that I can think of is, well, my seniors did it to me. Why should I not have fun? I should, and I need to have revenge. I deserve to have my revenge. But look, this is not an Indian soap opera or any soap opera. Yes, there is no Gopi Bahu in here or no Rasi Bain in here.
No Kokila Modi either.
Yes.
This is the kind of content we watch, guys.
So basically, you know, this is a real life, guys. This is not that Indian soap opera, you know. Soapera.
Soap opera.
So we just made new word, soapera, soap opera. And we're not trying to invalidate your pain. We know that you've gone through ragging. That must have been difficult, but
Traumatizing, maybe.
yeah, but passing on that same pain and same irrelevant, idiotic, nonsense thing to your juniors, would that be fair?
It's like burning a tree because a pine cone hit you in the head while you were walking.
What a wonderful thing you have said. Okay, so, you know, this goes against the logic of your argument, right? Trying to pass on that toxic culture of ragging.
I agree. Now, this might almost be considered a no-brainer because ragging is bad, and there are undoubtedly some effects that people have to face, that the victims of ragging, the initiates, have to face. There's obviously some kind of physical impact. There's obviously a bigger picture that we need to see in terms of the social impact that ragging has. Would you like to share something about that, Deepu?
Sure thing, Rit. As you said, it's a no-brainer, but just to give a little bit of context to our listeners. So we have looked at research on ragging as well as in bullying. Before talking about the impact, we would like to highlight on a very important issue that this research on ragging is not enough. It's very scarce. So we've already told that ragging, it is a form of bullying, and you also said
it's glorified bullying.
Exactly. So we have tried to extrapolate the research study, the findings in the research studies that were done on bullying over here. So yes, so let's start by talking about the physical impact. Did you know that if you experienced bullying, you were likely to age, show the signs of aging faster than normal? So there is a thing called telomere in your gene. So if you experience bullying, it's the rate of if that telomere becomes short, you are likely to age faster. And if you are bullied, the rate of shortening of that telomere becomes faster, so you age faster.
So it has an impact almost on a cellular level.
Exactly.
Right.
How messed up is that?
Very
That's
messed
very,
up.
very messed up, isn't it?
Very interesting, but at the same time.
Like you are going to get wrinkles because you were bullied. So aesthetically also it's not nice.
And is there something related to how bullies get wrinkles faster? Because there's a study.
You know, I could not find that, but I interestingly found that bullying others appears to have a protective effect, showing that there is lower inflammation
Oh my god.
and they tend to have higher socioeconomic status,
Or maybe I think
showing health benefits, you know.
maybe we're looking at it the other way around. Of course, you know better about this because you've read the research, right? But maybe people who belong to a higher socioeconomic strata, maybe they tend to bully others, and maybe it's the opposite. Maybe or is bullying a reason why they tend to climb faster on the social ladder?
You know, I was so interested by looking at that research. It, you know, I had to double check like where my eyes fit. Like, do I need to go to ophthalmologist? Because that finding was. How did you feel about this?
It's very sad, but at the same time, it's like why? I mean, I'm just hoping that this research is faulty and that research that proves that bullies get horns and bullying others is an independent risk factor for cancer. Maybe if that kind of research comes out, then maybe people will stop ragging people. I know I sound so mean.
No,
No. But this kind of research, it's almost like giving people a reason to be bullies. No,
they have actually written at the end that if you tend to bully others, it is it will increase your social status within your peers.
Oh, so it's almost like social dominance.
Exactly.
Right?
And if you are socially well off, then you are going to be physically well off. And it tends to impact positively. So it's not that it's directly beneficial, but you know, through the complexities of the social hierarchy, people who tend to bully seem to be better off regarding this thing, but that is no reason to bully others, because who knows, there might be other research. As we already said, that research is very scarce.
Right.
Much more research is needed to be done. So we cannot just take this one finding and generalize it to all the bullies. But from this research, what I learned was social hierarchy is the key to being physically and mentally well off, rather than that bullies were more healthier than those who get bullied. Don't you agree?
Yes, I do, and I'm not saying that bullies should get cancer or they should die faster. I mean, that's not what I meant, but I'm just saying that if some kind of research comes out and if it's proven that bullying is a risk factor for some kind of ailment, maybe people will stop bullying to an extent. But again, it's not just about that, because people tend to smoke even when they know that they might get lung cancer. So it requires a different kind of revolution, a more integrated kind of an approach, right?
So moving on with
what
the
you said has
physical
made
impact.
me sad already.
It made me sad. As I said, I almost needed to go see my ophthalmologist to see if this was true. But as I read the whole article, I got to have the idea that much more complexities are there. That is the beauty of research, isn't it? You cannot generalize the whole research by looking at one
Right.
study.
Wonderfully said, right.
So moving on with the physical impact, did you also know that if you were bullied, your response to stress, it becomes worse. You are less able to cope with stressful situations if you were bullied. And this is mainly related to the hormonal aspect. So the hormonal regulation, it is regulated by one of the axis, as we've read. It's called HPA, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, HPA axis. Sorry, so that becomes altered if you become bullied, and this makes you. This may even alter the cognitive responses to threatening situations, causing altered stress responses, and altered social cognition. Example being hypervigilant to hostile cues. Like if there is a spider here, and if you were bullied and I was not in the past, you would be more scared of that spider, but I would be less scared.
So the statement, what doesn't kill you make you stronger, is wrong. Did we just disprove that statement?
Debunked. And the last thing is regarding the physical impact. There is a marker known as CRP. I think we talked about in our previous podcast also, didn't we?
Right.
So it's a marker for inflammation in your body. So that also tends to increase if you were bullied. And also if you are bullied for a longer time, the effects of bullying are more there. So longer you are exposed to ragging, longer will be the effects of ragging, and it will be even more severe. And lastly, about the social impact, we've already talked about it from the previous research, that complexities and all that. But what is the impact in those who are bullied socially is that to make new friends, to forge new relationships, and they are likely to be involved in serious crime, burglary, or illegal drug use in the future. And one thing I forgot about the physical impact is if you are bullied, then your chances of having metabolic diseases as well as cardiovascular diseases, it also increases. So it's kind of messed up. And also there is a higher risk of mental illness, I think.
Right. Just adding to what you said, in a study that was conducted in Bangladesh, experiencing campus ragging was considered a risk factor for suicidality. And this includes suicidal ideation, it includes lifetime suicide plan, and a lifetime suicide attempt. Another study shows that ragging has been correlated with depressive symptoms in medical students.
It's a no-brainer.
Right. And workplace bullying, it has been associated with increased anxiety, increase in depressive symptoms, daily antidepressant and anxiolytic consumption. So the mental impact is something that is anticipated. We've talked about ragging. We've talked about what it entails. We've talked about the whys of ragging and bullying. But if we don't talk about the solutions, our conversation would not be complete. So I would like to ask you, Deepu, are there any solutions that we can explore together?
Of course. So I like to say it. Yes, of course, we need to have solution for this because we talked about it a lot and we know that it's not good. If you guys haven't figured that out, okay, so you can repeat it from the very beginning. This podcast, isn't it, Ruth?
Right. Although who would repeat it again?
I would.
Because
I would. Okay. Serious talk.
All right.
So from an individual level, well, I think people who do ragging, they need to be mindful, empathetic, because trying to pass on the vicious culture, trying to harm somebody, whether it's intentional or unintentional, it's not good. You need to have basic human decency, and you are in medical school, guys, and it's a place where you need to learn to save lives. And in a way, as we already talk about those impacts of bullying, in a way you are you are decreasing the longevity of someone's life by making them age faster. Like, that's not good. Like, you are directly violating the Hippocratic Oath. So those who are listening to our podcast, through this podcast, I think it becomes a part of our solution. I know that is a lot to ask, but on an individual level, I think being mindful and empathetic would be a very good solution. What do you think, Reed? About other solutions also?
I agree fully with what you said, and you said it really well, Deepu. Another thing, now I know that people need to work on themselves in a way. People need to see that ragging is not funny, bullying people is not something that should be taken lightly.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I think authorities should take charge as well. People who are in administrative positions, they should make rules, and these rules should be enforced. And not just in medical colleges and universities, but at the national level as well. For instance, there are laws in India, there are laws in Sri Lanka, and whether right.
That's interesting.
And whether it is being followed or not, it's a different story. But there are laws at least, and these laws should be implemented, as I said before. And another thing is teachers, if someone comes to you, if someone reaches out, it's important that you view the issue with concern instead of being dismissive. I know there's a lot on everyone's plate in medical school, teachers and students alike. But if someone comes to you with a problem, then they deserve to be heard. Another thing is juniors, people who are just entering medical school, if you're listening to this podcast, you should learn your rights. You should not tolerate bullying, you should not tolerate ragging just because it has been normalized.
Hashtag no more.
Right. I know this isn't talked about much, but you should know that you don't deserve disrespect and ridicule. You don't have to deal with anything that makes you uncomfortable. If you're standing up for what you believe to be the right thing, the only thing that you should fear is that you will stop persevering and that you will be treated with disdain, with disrespect by the wrong people. In that scenario, you don't have much to lose either, right? And if you ever require any assistance, you will find seniors who will stand with you. We have found seniors who are incredibly supportive, who are respectful, and you don't have to deal with things just because they've been normalized.
Yes.
And seniors or people who are already in med school, if you're watching this, I think it takes courage to go against the norm and break cycles once and for all. Just break the goddamn cycle, guys. Just stop. I think now there's so much that I need to learn as well. I cannot claim to be a very professional person. No one can, I think, right? Because things are always changing. We are learning new things.
We are all amateur in this ever-changing world.
Right, yes. And I think to speak of professionalism would be very preachy coming from me, because I don't know much either, but I know one thing, it's that everyone deserves respect. And just because someone is a newcomer, it does not mean that you are allowed to ridicule them. It does not mean that you are allowed to violate their boundaries and treat them like subhumans, because they are not. So just break the cycle, guys. Just say that it's okay if I don't look cool, or it's okay if I don't participate in this and lose a few friends.
If you look like a nerd.
Right. It's okay if you lose a few friends who think that ragging is the only form of fun, right? It's okay. It's completely fine. You can just, do the right thing. Do the right thing. It's okay.
And this goes out to the colleagues from our own class also.
Right.
We have not been able to convince over the years, from my personal experience, but I hope that this podcast changes just a little bit of your mind.
And we intend no disrespect, because
No.
we are also learning. We also don't know everything, and it's just sharing something that we believe to be right, that we believe to be true. We're just speaking our truth, and if you think that this truth resonates with you, then I think you should I think you should join us.
Yes.
Right? Like, what are we? Are we starting a cult? No, this sounds like we're starting a cult, but
We are
no.
not.
Yeah, we're just speaking our truth, as I said before.
FYI, no cult.
Right. And so, any other thing that you would like to add?
What you said was very beautiful. One last thing that I would like to add is the senior-junior interaction, which occurs through mentorship. So what if, Reet, you were assigned to one junior to be their mentor? Would you love that?
I would love that. It
Right?
would be very fun. It would give me a sense of responsibility. And, right.
Do you think that might decrease the incidence of ragging a little bit?
I think that's an incredible idea, Deepu. That might be helpful.
So medical college, please hear us out.
Right.
That is all from me.
So, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for spending your time with us,
Oui.
albeit virtually.
Merci, धन्यवाद. Oui.
Subha. And, right. Thank you, Deepu.
Thank you, Reet.
So, we look forward to hearing from you. Give us some constructive feedback in the comments. Teach us something that we are yet to know, because
And-
there is undoubtedly a lot that we are yet to learn. And see you in the next podcast, guys.
Bye bye, guys.
Bye bye.